Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll get started right at 2 o'clock as always. So you guys are a little bit early, but that's great. Being here early, you guys get to, you can say hi to each other. You can check out the prerequisites for the lesson. You can even learn the prerequisites before the lesson starts. Today's prerequisites are, they're pretty long, so you might want to take some notes. Conjugating verbs. Now, of course, in the sentences that we have, there is more than just conjugating verbs. You want to know how to read and write the alphabet. You'll want to be familiar with what verbs are, what nouns are, those sorts of things. But the one thing I want to make sure that you can really do is conjugate verbs. And that would be specifically the yo form. If you haven't learned that, you have plenty of time to learn that before we start this lesson. But there aren't a lot of prerequisites because this is going to start out as a beginner lesson. So I don't mean like brand new beginner, but beginners who are just still getting started with learning Korean. And we're also, though, going to be doing some intermediate material in this lesson, but I'll let you know when that comes up. The reason is the form we're learning about today is one that's normally taught early on in the beginning. And funnily enough, I've never done a lesson about this grammar form before. This is the first time I've ever done, that's not true. In the live series, this is the first time I've ever done a live video where I even talk about this form, what it can be used for. And that's the progressive tense, which we're learning today. And I was going to say, a lot of people assume this form to be something extremely beginner. They think this form is like, the present tense. It's just conjugate it and you're done. Super beginner. In some ways, this form is a super beginner form, but there's a little bit more to this form I think that people might kind of dismiss that actually goes up more like high beginner, I would say. So we're going to be learning about all of it today. Of course, it wouldn't be a Billy Go lesson unless we get into the details about every grammar form we talk about. So we will be going into, in case you're like not a beginner and you're wondering, oh, should I stick around? Is there anything for me in this lesson? Yes, there will probably be some stuff for you in this lesson too. Also, let me just say hi to who's here. Hey, Arlie, welcome. I think Grant, I think Gems was here first as the first name I saw in the chat when I first loaded this up. Yes. Let's just scroll up here a second. Small, Cheryl, who else do I see? Sam Strongarm, as well as, yeah, that's the members I see right now. All right, and we will get started very shortly, just right at 2 o'clock. Also, a few quick announcements. There is merchandise, as usual. I will be making some new merchandise soon. Not right now. I'm working on some new merchandise, so I might have some more stuff to show off after a couple months from now. I just pinned one thing up to the chat so you can see kind of what it looks like. That is not anything to do. It's not any sort of requirement. You do not need to wear a Go Billy sweatshirt in order to watch these streams or to learn Korean. That's not a requirement. It's just one more way to support the channel. Also, other announcements are, make sure that if you are a Patreon member that you pick up your worksheet for today's lesson. You can get it already on Patreon. And after this live stream finishes, you'll be able to download the full outline of everything that we're learning today. So if you want to, if you take notes, then you might not need that. But if you just kind of like to sit and relax and just kind of watch the lesson and you don't want to deal with writing down every sentence I do and everything I say about the sentences, well, you can also just pick up the outline for every live stream I've ever done on Patreon as well. Also, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and then remember that if you're a member of this YouTube channel, which I know many of you are, over 60 of you are, you also get access to watch the abridged versions, so the edited versions of all of these live streams the very day after they finish. So about 3 or 4 hours after the live stream finishes, you'll be able to go onto my YouTube channel and you can watch this lesson, which I have not even yet taught yet. You can watch it abridged in usually about 10 or 15 minutes. So that's just a benefit for members. And also another really big announcement. I did a live stream a couple days ago, but I have hit 300,000 subscribers, guys. So that is just fantastic. I never expected I would hit 300,000 subscribers this year. I was thinking it would take another couple more years because my first 100,000 took me, I don't know, like 6 years, I think. Yeah, it took me over 6 years to get my first 100,000 subscribers. And then after that, it's been about 100 or so almost 100,000 per year since then. So yeah, this has just been fantastic. Let's go for 400,000 next and see how the channel is gonna. I'll continually try to improve the channel. I'm spending. You guys send me donations. I spend those donations on equipment for the channel. You guys can't see a lot of it because it's not in the videos, but it's usually things like upgrading my equipment. I would go into detail about that. There's a lot of equipment that I purchased recently, just in the past 4 months, actually, that you'll start to see my video quality get to improve a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who've been supportive of my channel, from some of you from the beginning, others of you more recently, supporting by either just liking videos or watching videos even, subscribers, of course, as well as the numerous of you who've actually also even donated your money to my channel. So just wanted to give a big thank you to you, that this is all because of you guys, and it's really thanks to you guys that I am still able to continue to teach Korean. And I hope that I hope that years and years in the future from now, you'll still be watching my videos, and some people will be watching my videos. I hope that I'm still a thing. I can still be a thing in say 30 more years. There will be it's not going to be Learn Korean with Go Billy. It's going to be Learn Korean with Grandpa Billy. So I'm hoping for that. Let's make that a reality. Anyway, so I see some more people now coming into the chat, so I'm just going to say hi to you guys. And let's see, Ollie Rowe, welcome. Just see what other members, if I missed anyone. Oh yeah, I think that's the only other member that's coming here. Okay, yes, if you have any quick questions, we have about 8 minutes before we start. We're going to start right at 2 o'clock. So the lesson always starts at the same time every Sunday. Oh, and one more announcement. I should have made this earlier, that next Sunday is our break. So we have 3 live streams in a row and then 1 live stream off. And that's what I use for, filming videos or editing new videos. This time I'm using it for filming a new set of episodes of the series where I analyze celebrities speaking Korean. So I'm going to be filming those this next weekend. So there will be no live stream next Sunday. Hey, Hyunwoo! Hey, Hyunwoo! Wow! I saw the board flicker out of the side of my peripheral vision. I didn't expect Hyunwoo would be here. Also, guys, congratulations to Hyunwoo and the team at Talk to Me in Korean on hitting way more subscribers than me. I believe they just hit 1 million subscribers a couple weeks ago, actually. Wow, I didn't think I'd get actually, I'll write your name in English. I'll write your name in English. If I start writing Korean really small up here, no one's going to be able to read it. Wow. Thank you. And I will do 30 dabs. Hyunwoo donated $30 for my 300,000 subscribers. I was hoping it would be $300, honestly, but I'll take that. That's it's the thought that counts. 30 dabs. Oh wait, I gotta put on some music. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, thank you, Hyunwoo. Well, I'm just barely starting the live stream, and I'm already feeling out of breath, dizzy. That was, you can tell that I do regular exercise all the time, that I was totally used to. I'm totally comfortable doing that. Yes. Let's check here for the chat. Okay. Yeah, thank you again, and welcome everybody to the channel. And if you have any more questions, there's 5 minutes left before we start the live stream. Whew, I'm out of breath. Like, staying home all the time, it's not too great for my health. I haven't been gaining any weight though. I guess that's good. I'm still being careful about what I eat. But yeah, I'm not doing too much exercise, to be honest. I should probably get back into that. I used to do exercise regularly. I'd say until about February, every day I would do exercise for a little over a year and a half or so. Okay, let's see. He's going to freeze his shoulder. No, I will be careful. I'll be careful. I'm very aware of what that is. That will not happen. If it starts to happen, believe me, I will work to fix that. I'm not really doing it that hard that I'm like pulling on anything. Like what I'm doing is I'm doing it from my wrists. I'm not doing it from my shoulders because I don't want to injure them. In case wondering about my form when I do dabs, I throw my wrists up. So I'm not really like worrying too much about my shoulder muscles with that. It's mostly coming from my wrist. So it kind of feels comfortable. It's tiring though just to move from my biceps, I'd say, not from my shoulders. Nice. Yeah, I think someone said I will get 3 Talk to Me in Korean books. I think Talk to Me in Korean does the like a December sale or something like that as well. You guys should go buy their books too. I have like, I think 6 books total. One of my books is also over at Talk to Me in Korean. So some people have already bought all my books and they'll send me an email. They're like, Billy, what other books can I buy? What other books do you have? And I'm like, Talk to Me in Korean has books if you want to buy more books. I only have like 5 or 6 books. They have like 500 or something. They have like a lot of stuff. Let's see. If James doesn't give a huge donation again, will you have Hyunwoo Shi as your producer? Hyunwoo is always, well, he is always my producer. Sometimes I don't listen to him if he tells me to do something, but he is technically he is my producer. Sometimes he'll be like, Billy, you should do this, or let's make this video. I'm like, yes, okay, PD님, I get it. I'll do it. Kendra M, I should be asleep, but I'm here instead. It's 10 p.m. Nice. Serious question. Do you do a warm-up exercise before you start the live show so you can do dabbing better? No, I actually don't. I should probably stretch, right? Should probably do some stretches because I usually get a few donations during streams. So let me do some stretches first. I need some, I need to get some like exercise music. I think I got it. Okay, here, so we get some exercise music. Okay. I just hit my light. I mean, this tree branch right here. I just hit this tree branch. It's really hot, really bright. All right. I think we're good. So let's get started with the lesson. Oh no, we still have 1 minute left. Jasmine Gold. I bought Common Mistakes Korean Learners Make, and it has changed my life. That's very nice. Admittedly, I used the book too. So like this is the book. I wrote it together with Talk to Me in Korean. They formatted it. It looks really pretty. I couldn't do this. So yeah. And sometimes like there are a few specific questions in here. Of course, like, although I wrote it, there are a few specific questions in here that I'll get from other people that are not on the top of my head. Like they'll say, why is this sentence wrong? For example, like using 누구 and 누가 to mean someone. And I'll be like, oh, which one is the someone? Like, I know it's this one, but why is it this one? Oh, I can't remember what's my reason. So I'll like pull out the book. I'll be like, oh, that's right. I remember I wrote that. Okay. And I can answer the question. So yeah, sometimes it's just an extra reference book. I sometimes use it too. Like I wouldn't make that mistake, but I sometimes forget the reason why I wouldn't make that mistake. Hey, Juju, what is R? What is R? What currency is R? Is that pirate currency? R. Do you know Jolly Youngung Namja? It would be funny to see you teaching Ollie. Yeah. Oh, that's $5. Thank you. Oh, I was curious how much it was. Juju. Yeah, I like them. I'm subscribed to their channels, both of those. And it would be funny if I tried to teach them. I'm not sure how well I could do if Hyunwoo didn't have too much success. I'm not sure if I'd be able to do much better. But yeah, it would be fun to do a video together with both of them someday. 3, 4, 5, okay? And then Evolving Brain, our last donation before we start the lesson. Do you think it's easier for a native English speaker? Hold on, write this down. I'll write down evolving. I know who you are. Evolving 뇌. There, now I can fit it. Now I can fit it in the space. What would that be? 진화되고 있는 뇌? 진화되는 뇌? The brain that, what would that be? Evolves, I guess. Is that even what they use for evolving? Let me double check. I'm pretty sure that's evolution. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So do you think it's easier for a native English speaker to learn Korean or for a native Korean speaker to learn English? I think it's going to be the same. If you're talking about in practical, like the real world, what ends up happening is Koreans will learn English much better because they get a lot more English education. And whether they're good students or not, they're all exposed to English from a younger age. So in that sense, a Korean can learn English more easily, relatively. But as far as the two languages are concerned, it's probably the same. It's really hard for Koreans to learn English, just like it's really hard for English speakers to learn Korean. So I wouldn't say it's easier or harder one way if you're just talking about languages. All right. Your book has a hole in it. That's that's the technology. We printed special holograms on here, and it actually shows a real world scene every time you look through it. It's one of the reasons why the book costs as much as it does, because this special printing it's patented. It's very, very difficult to make. So that's what it is. Okay, so let's get started with our lesson today. Again, this is a beginner lesson, but like all of my live streams, we're going to go into some more details that you might not have been aware of, even if you knew this form. So the form we're going to be learning today is called the progressive tense. And the way to make it is you take an action verb stem, you attach ko, so the verb ending ko, followed by the verb ita, which means to exist, and then you conjugate it. The nice thing about this form is that there are no exceptions to it. You don't need to care about what the verb stem of this action verb ends with. As long as it's an action verb, you just take its stem, no matter what it ends with, attach ko, followed by ita, which you conjugate. Now, this commonly could become 있어요. And the reason I'm writing this is because this is a beginner lesson, and I know a lot of you are still learning conjugation or you're still getting comfortable with it. So let's just use 있어요 for the time being. So if we're to take for an example, let's take the verb 하다, to do. Well, the verb stem of 하다 is 하. We attach 고 followed by 있어요. Now this again is 고 있다, which we conjugate. We'll just use 있어요 for example. So 하고 있어요. This is just an example conjugation. Okay, so what is this form used for? Well, you probably actually already know this. I think most people, even really new beginners, have seen this form and kind of might know what it's used for. It's kind of like the ing form in English, but that's not all there is to it. There's a lot more to it than just that. Because, and we'll talk about actually why that is, because you can also use the present tense to mean ing. And we'll talk about that too as well in this lesson. So it's kind of like saying ing. Now, what does that mean? This is used for describing some sort of action that is either currently or continually happening. Something that is currently, so right now, something that's happening right now. So if it's an action verb to do, well then I am doing it currently. It can also be used for talking about something that happens continually. By continually, I mean over a period of time, multiple times, right? So if you said, I am doing something, it could mean either, in English, it could mean either right now I'm doing it, or in general, like these days, I'm doing it, right? If your friend asks you, what are you doing? If your friend asks you, what did you do? Or let me try to rephrase this. What are you doing over the winter break? You could say, I am studying Korean. Or I guess that wouldn't be the best example. If your friend asks you, what have you been doing lately? Let's do that. If your friend asks you, what have you been doing lately? And you want to reply, I'm studying Korean. It doesn't have to mean that you're studying Korean right now. I mean, you're meeting with your friend and you have your You know, you have a Talk to Me in Korean book, you have a Go Billy book opened up and you're studying Korean. 공부하고 있어요. To study is 공부하다. 공부하고 있어요. It could be 공부하고 있어요. I'm studying currently, but it could just also just mean continually, like in general, over a long period of time, multiple times, right? Yeah, I'm studying Korean. Doesn't have to be right now, but it is some sort of general, continually, something's happening. I'm learning Korean, right? In general, I'm learning Korean. You don't have to be learning it right now, but just, yeah, I'm learning Korean these days. So these are the two uses that this form is for. To say something happening right now or something happens often over a period of time. So currently or continually. Okay. And because of that, you might also see this form used together with words that imply this. For example, 지금. 지금 means right now. So you might see 지금 하고 있어요. I am doing it right now. This is just to add emphasis to the fact that it's currently right now happening and not currently happening. I shouldn't say that. And not continually happening. So if you wanted to say, I'm studying Korean, 공부하고 있어요. It could mean both. But if you want to emphasize right now I'm studying Korean, then you could add 지금 before it. So 지금 공부하고 있어요. I'm studying right now. Another word you'll hear often used together with it is 요즘. 요즘 means like nowadays or these days or lately, some sort of meaning like that. Just recently, these days, nowadays. So you might say 요즘 공부하고 있어요. So I am studying these days. Now it doesn't mean right now. It just means continually, generally over a certain amount of period of time. I can't speak English, okay? I'm teaching Korean, not English. Over a period of time, often, right? 요즘. So you'll hear these words here. So you'll hear these words used together with this form, but they don't have to be. Just know that if you wanted to emphasize either that it's happening currently or that it's happening continually, you can add words such as these or others to your sentences to add that emphasis. All right. We just check the chat for a second, make sure I'm not missing anything. Guys, don't tell Billy we sent him a faulty... Dang it, Hyunwoo! That's what I get for not reading the fine print of the contract. Okay. All right, so this form is called, as you guys know, this form is called the progressive... This pen is dying. We'll get a new pen soon. This form is called the progressive tense. Why is it called the progressive tense? And why do I still call it the progressive tense if it's such... I think it's kind of a weird name, honestly. I think it's a complicated name, but I can't think of a better name for it. I can't really think of a better way to call it. The reason it's called progressive tense, you can just think of it, is because it is describing something that is progressing, a sort of action that is progressing, as in happening, right? Or something, by that I mean something that is like going on. Like the action is progressing. In that sort of sense, progressive tense. It's not called the progressive tense because it's voting on specific bills that are being brought up to Congress or anything like that. It is just progressive tense because it's things that are going on. So you don't really need to know this though. Just know that this tense, this 고 있다 form, is called the progressive tense. If you just know that, that's more than enough. Okay. All right. I think we are ready to do a couple example sentences. Now, again, this form that we have just learned is the most beginner form we're going to be learning today. There's a little bit more to this form, though, we're also going to be talking about that'll slowly go from, low beginner to middle beginner and then maybe high beginner by the time we're finished. So let's do our first example sentence. 저는, so as for me, 저는 지금. So we know it's something that's going to be happening right now because we just added in 지금. 지금 means right now. 저는 지금 운동. So 운동 is exercise. So 운동을 하다 means to exercise. Let me do the proper one. Shouldn't do the really fast one for you guys. 운동을 하고 있어요. So 하고 있어요. I am doing 운동, exercise. What's exercise? I guess that would be good too for your muscles, maybe your biceps if you did exercise. Okay. 저는 지금 운동을 하고 있어요. So as for me, I am right now 운동, exercise. 운동을 하고 있어요. I am doing exercise right now. So I am exercising right now. This meaning is obviously, because of the 지금, it is obviously something happening currently, right? It's not talking about something happening continually. If, however, just to make a point, if you were not to add 지금 in this sentence, it could mean either. You could use this to say 운동하고 있어요. I'm exercising right now. You could be lifting weights. You could be dabbing. 저는 운동을 하고 있어요. 운동을 하고 있어요. I'm exercising. Sure, it could be right now. Or you can say it in general. Your friend says, oh, you gained some muscles lately. You could say, 예, 운동을 하고 있어요. I am exercising. As in, recently. I am exercising continually. But because we added 지금 here, now we've added emphasis. We don't need to guess whether it's happening right now or happening continually. We know it's happening right now. So I am exercising right now. 저는 지금 운동을 하고 있어요. So I am exercising right now. Or literally, I am doing exercise. Exercise. Because 하다 means to do. So literally doing exercise right now. Okay, we have just one more example sentence of this form. Because this form is quite low beginner, I don't think we need to do like 10 examples of this form. We're going to move on to some more fun stuff with this same form. So one more example. Let's use our friend 철수. 철수. Oh yeah, I gotta forget. For the beginner lessons, I gotta make sure I use the correct stroke order and everything. 철수는. So as for 철수, our friend 철수, his name is 철수. He does everything. 철수는 창문 is window. 창문을 again. I'm so used to like the faster way of writing. Okay. 창문을. Okay. I'll just pronounce it the correct way. 닫고. 닫고. I'll tell you something about this in a second, but it's actually not really said that way usually. 닫고 있어요. Okay. 철수는 창문을 닫고 있어요. 철수 is, now 닦다 means to wipe, but it literally means to wipe, 닦다. But it's actually used to say to clean. So if you're cleaning anything that you clean by wiping, that would be like a table, cleaning a window. Anything that you clean by wiping it is used with 닦다 to say to clean it. So it wouldn't be like 청소하다 or any other verb for to clean. You would use 닦다. For people who are a little bit more advanced than this word is actually not pronounced as 닦다 most of the time. They actually say this as 닦다. Well, I would actually write it differently. It would be, when you pronounce it, it would become 닦다. 닦다. So they say 닦아, 닦고 when you actually pronounce it, but you would never write it that way. You're supposed to write it like this. 닫고. 창문을 닫고 있어요. This is just an example of something that they say it differently than they write it. And I don't know, maybe someday they'll update the writing for it. I don't know. If Hyunwoo, if you're still watching, do you hear people still say like 닦아? Like 식탁 닦아? 닦아요. I don't hear it. I don't know, but I don't live in Korea, so it might just be me. Anyway, 철수는 창문을 닫고 있어요. 철수 is wiping the windows. So this could be something that's happening continually. It could be that 철수 is the official window washer, and every day he is wiping the windows. Probably though not. Probably we can assume, just by taking a guess, probably it's saying that he's doing it right now. 철수는 창문을 닫고. It's like turn my brain to say it the correct way that it's written. 철수는 창문을 닫고 있어요. So 철수 is wiping the windows. Only on TV. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you go to Naver Dictionary and you click on any word to hear its pronunciation, you'll hear the 100% accurate pronunciation of everything. The problem is people don't say a lot of those words the way that they're actually in the dictionary. You'll find a lot of examples. It's not like a small handful. It's a huge Santa Claus bag size of examples of words in Korean that people will actually read it differently than it's written. This is one of them. But just know that the correct way to say it is 닫고. But the way that people actually say it, the street way to say it, is with a double letter here. So 닫고. But anyway. And sometimes due to these different ways of pronouncing, the National Institute of the Korean Language will actually sometimes update their official pronunciation rules. It's happened a lot in the past. Even like about half of the ways that the letters are read in Korean were also changed for this because of how people actually pronounce them. So it's possible in the future this could change. But anyway, so now that we've done the most basic form of this grammar form, let's go on to a little bit more about it because that's not all there is to it. Fortunately, there's actually a lot more we can do with this. First of all, let's talk about some other tenses. So we're talking about the progressive tense here, right? Progressive tense is a tense. Just like we can say the past tense, I did. Future tense, I will do. Well, progressive tense, I am doing, right? There are other tenses within the progressive tense that we can also do. There is a progressive tense past, and there is a progressive tense future. So let's talk about those. You can use the past tense with the progressive tense as 있었다. So in conjugation, you'll see this as 있었어요, for example, among others. So you could say something like 하고 있었어요. So what does that mean? What is the past progressive tense? What does that mean? How could you do past progressive? What do you guys think? Can you say in the chat what you think this might mean? Let's see. Small. Did Small say something? I like tense. What about tense? Are you talking about exposure? I get okay. 이미 알고 있었어요. Sure, yeah, Tatiana, that's great. 이미 알고 있었어요. Yeah. Can someone give me a meaning in English that you might think this would be as? And we'll talk about this. It's not quite this straightforward, but it's pretty much. I was doing, yeah. Not it used to happen. That would be the double past tense. And I did a different live stream about that, like 했었어요. Like I had done something. That's different. This is when used with the 고 form. So you could have 하고 있었어요. Well, 하고 있어요. I am doing. So we had the example 운동을 하고 있어요. 저는 지금 운동을 하고 있었어요. Wait, I just switched it in my head. 저는 지금 운동을 하고 있어요. I am exercising now. But you could also say 저는 운동을 하고 있었어요. 있었어요. So past tense of 있다. And that's, as you think, was doing. So this is like saying was ing, right? So someone was doing it. They're not doing it now, but in the past, they were continually doing something. Now, it could no longer mean currently, right? In the past, they were currently doing something. Currently has to do with right now. So you don't need to think about it as past tense of currently. In the past tense, it really would just mean continually. Now, technically, if you're talking about in a past tense situation, well, at that time, I was at that time currently doing something, sure. But you can think of it as just meaning continually in the past. So this isn't so much of an I used to do something. That would be a different form. Like when you say you used to do something, I'm answering this because I want to clarify it. When you say you used to do something in English, it means that you're not doing it anymore. When you use this form, it doesn't have that sort of meaning that it's no longer happening. You're simply saying that it was happening. It was, not that it no longer does. But if you wanted to say it used to, as in I do not anymore, but I used to, yeah, I used to like that, or I used to go there, I used to study Korean, then you would use a different form. And I did do a live stream about that. You can find it in the Google Doc that's linked in the community tab. So was doing something, as in used to, as in, I shouldn't say that, this is not used to. Just was doing something. Now there is something to know about this though. Although you can use this in the past tense, you don't necessarily have to. And actually, before I even say that, you can also use this form in the future tense. The future progressive tense. What would the future progressive tense mean? What do you guys think that would mean? I'll write it down here. 있을, formally this would be 있을 것이다, but this is always shortened to 있을 거다, which then gets conjugated as 있을 거예요. So this is how you're going to see it actually used as 있을 거예요, or it could be 있을 거야 if you wanted to use it as 반말. So it goes to 있을 것이다. 것이다 gets conjugated shorter to, 것이다 gets shortened to 거다, and then this 다 here is just from the verb 이다, so it can conjugate any way you want, either as 에요, or you could either conjugate it as 야 if you're speaking with casual speech. So what would the future progressive mean? Let's see what you guys have. I will be eating later. Yeah, I will be doing. So past progressive was doing. I was exercising. What were you doing yesterday when you were dabbing during your stream? Well, 운동을 하고 있었어요. I was exercising. At that time, I was exercising. Future tense. I will be exercising. So will be ing, whatever it is. So what are you doing tomorrow? Well, between 2 and 6, I will be exercising. Sure, right? You can say things like that in Korean. The way to conjugate these is pretty simple, as you can see. All you do is you change the ita to the past tense or ita to the future tense, and you're done. But the way they're used is not quite that straightforward. The reason is because you actually don't need to use either of these. Now you can, and you will see them, and that's why I'm adding them here. But anytime you want to talk about something that you did in the past, you don't need this form. Anytime you want to talk about something you're going to do, you don't need this form. You only need these forms, the past tense or the future tense, to emphasize that it was something that was going on continually in the past or continually will be going on in the future. I think my next door neighbor is vacuuming their room. Like they're vacuuming the wall, it sounds like. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear it. Anyway, you only need these to emphasize. You actually don't need to say this at all. You don't need to say 운동하고 있었어요, unless the person is asking what you were doing during a period of time. Like, for example, yesterday, what were you doing in your stream when you were dabbing? Well, now they're asking about a specific period of time, right? The time that you were doing all those dabs. In which case you can say 운동을 하고 있었어요. I was doing exercise. But if your friend says, what did you do in your stream yesterday? You don't need to say 운동을 하고 있었어요 unless you want to emphasize that it went on for a long time. You can just say the regular past tense. 운동했어요. 운동을 했어요. I exercised. If your friend says, what are you doing tomorrow between the hours of 2 and 6? 운동을 하고 있을 거예요. 운동을 하고 있을 거예요. I'm going to be exercising. Sure, sounds fine because you're talking about a period of time, something happening a lot over a period of time. But if your friend says, what are you doing tomorrow afternoon? You don't need to say, 운동을 하고 있을 거야. I'm going to be exercising. Just like you don't in English. You would just say, I'm going to exercise. I will exercise. 운동할 거예요. 운동을 할 거예요. The end. So you don't really need to use the past tense or the future tense in most situations. You do need to use it if you need to talk about a specific period of time. So like I said, if it's an action that did take place over a long period of time, and you want to emphasize that it did take place over a long period of time, not just once, but it was repeatedly or continually over a period of time in the past or in the future, then you may use these other forms. I hope that makes sense. So I wanted to teach them, but I didn't want you to think that you should or you have to use them. In fact, it'll sound more natural not to use them unless they're used in the right situations. Does everything make sense so far? You guys following along okay? We have a lot of viewers today, more than I expect. We got 150 so of you guys watching. That's great. So let me give you an example of that. Make sure you guys are doing okay. Let me know how you guys are doing in the chat, and I'm going to write a sentence, and I'm going to check the chat for a second. Actually, if I write so big, then I don't have any room to put anything else in. 저는 방에서 in the room 잠을 자고 있었어요. So let's just do this really simple sentence here. Now, 잠을 자다 literally means to sleep asleep. Korean has a lot of words like that, and I think that kind of shares some similarities with I think I heard it was like Hebrew or something, which does that too. To dream a dream, to sleep asleep. They have a lot of words like that. To dance a dance. I'm sure there's another dozen or so that aren't coming to my mind. But yeah, it's just to sleep. You can use this interchangeably with sleep, but 잠을 자다 makes it more clear that you're talking about just sleep, like taking a sleep, whereas 자다 is just in general sleeping. So anyway, 잠을 자다 is to take a nap, to sleep. Not a nap, that would actually be not down, but to sleep, to take a sleep, to sleep asleep. Sleep. All right. 저는 방에서 잠을 자고 있었어요. So I, in my room, in the room, whatever room, probably my room, 잠을 자고 있었어요. So I was sleeping in the room, in my room. 저는 방에서 잠을 자고 있었어요. I was sleeping in my room. So what does using this form do to the sentence? What is the difference between saying 잠을 잤어요 and saying 잠을 자고 있었어요? Let me know. What do you guys think? What's the difference? Because I could have also said 잠을 잤어요. I slept in my room. I was sleeping in my room. What is the difference? I want to check to see how your guys' understanding is. Dream a dream. Yeah, you can dream a dream, anything like that. Hebrew does have some of that from what little, like, that's what I had heard, something like that. And there's more, they're just not coming to me right now. I guess you could teach teachings. 가르침을 가르치다. I guess, it's not really a phrase though, but I guess you could. It's not really a thing though. I slept for a long time. Yeah, Anna Blue. Empathize that you did it for a long period of time. Yeah, paradots. That's right. So, in what situations? So then think about this. It means you were sleeping continuously. Yeah. So think about this. Then, in what situation would you want to use this form? When would you want to emphasize that you were sleeping for a long time? Yes, it does mean that you were sleeping over a period of time, but in what situation would you do that? Can you guys think of a situation where you would want to emphasize that you're sleeping for a long time? I can. You don't have to write it in chat. I can. What if your friend says, hey, I tried to call you 7 times yesterday. What were you doing? You don't want to say, well, you could say 저는 방에서 잤어요. I slept in my room. But you want to say the reason I couldn't answer your phone call was because I was asleep. over a period of time. I was sleeping. So you called me 7 times, but during that long time that you called me, all 7 of those calls, 저는 방에서 잠을 자고 있었어요. I was sleeping in my room. So you could do it to, again, this is for emphasizing that something happened over a period of time. You're not just saying, I slept in my room, because your friend's going to be like, well, duh, where else did you sleep? Did you sleep on the street? Why do you need to tell me you slept in your room? Again, why didn't you answer my phone call yesterday? No, you want to emphasize during that time. So here, now when you use this in the past tense, it's like saying there was a period of time when this happened continually or during that whole time. 저는 방에서 잠을 자고 있었어요. So I was sleeping in my room. I was sleeping in my room like that during that whole time. All right. One more example. How are we on time? All right, we are terrible on time. So bad on time. Okay. Okay. So that is actually all we need to talk about for the progressive, progressive regular, progressive past tense, progressive future tense. But what about progressive negative? What about making a negative sentence? How would you say, I am not doing something? It's actually really easy to make a negative sentence in the progressive tense. So this is the negative progressive tense. All you want to do is use an before the entire action verb or 지 않다 after the 지 않다 ending. Actually, let me add a little more space here. Oh, I got a donation. See who that is from. Action verb. Who's that? A plumber man. A plumber man. I've seen you before. I've seen you around these parts before. A plumber man. Thank you. $10. Wow. Uh-oh. So I can see, I think I moved the board and now it's like blaringly. There we go. Let's fix that. Okay. Let's do another dab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Oops. Wait, that's the wrong button. Hold on. Okay, there we go. We're safe now. All right. So, you can make the negative progressive tense by either attaching an before the entire thing with 고 있다, or just attaching 지 않다, the negative verb ending, to the end of 있다. So you could either do something like this. 지금 안 하고 있어요. 지금 안 하고 있어요. Now I am not doing it. I'm not doing it now. So I'm not studying now. I'm not exercising now. Whatever. Use an as you normally would to make a sentence negative. But don't do anything else. Don't change the cool form or 있어요 or anything like that. Another option, or you can just use 지금 하고, and then, like I said, attach 지 않아요. So 지 않다 form. You can attach 지 않다. So here conjugated as 지 않아요. Just like that. And then not mess with the action verb. So you can say 지금 하고 있지 않아요. I am not doing it right now. So I'm not doing it right now. I'm not doing it right now. These have the same overall meaning. In fact, I did a lesson when I talked about on live stream, I talked about negative verbs and I talked about the differences. We're not going to cover the differences between an and 지 않다 in this lesson, but there are some slight differences between them. But you can use either of these forms. You can use either of these forms to make your sentence negative when you're using the progressive tense. So either an before it and nothing else, or 지 않다 ending after 있다. Do not ever do this. Let's just make a sentence. So this is what This is what I did as a beginner. I'm like, let's make this sentence negative, guys. I want to say I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing it right now. So what's the opposite of 있다? Well, that must be 없다. 지금 하고 없어요. This is what I did, okay? And when I was a beginner. That's actually how I talk too. I got a lot smarter when I learned more Korean. 지금 하고 없어요. This is wrong. Never do this, please. Please promise me, guys. Make me a promise right now. I want you to hold out your pinkies to the screen. Grab my pinky, and I want you to make a promise that you will never change the 고 있다 form to become 고 없다. And I wish I didn't have to make this promise with you, but I've seen a lot of people do it still in 2020. But please, okay, yeah. Okay, now you got to press your thumb. Okay, there we go. Okay, now you can sign. You got to sign the copy so I know it's official. Okay. You can sign it just by like writing your finger on there. Okay, yeah, that's good. Thanks. Okay, it's all good. I feel better now. We made the promise. You can never break that promise. Okay, I feel better. All right, one more thing we have to learn. And that is, how do you make this in honorific form? Because what if you want to say, not I am doing something, but my grandfather is doing something. My grandfather is asleep. Or my grandfather is... Say my grandfather is exercising. Well, how would you do that? It's actually really easy. This case, you actually can change 있다 to another verb. You can use 고 계시다. Now, 계시다 is the honorific version of 있다. So what does that mean? Honorific doesn't mean that it's more polite in general. Honorific means it's more polite about the person you're talking about. Person. So if you want to be extra polite, don't just, what's the word? Without thinking about, don't just slap on 계시다 and think your sentence is going to be more polite. It has to be about a different person. Only a person. Don't do this for animals. Don't do this for anything other than a human being. So you can say a person, not yourself, but a different person is doing something by conjugating 계시다 instead of 있다. When you're doing the regular 요 form, you're going to get 계세요. So 하고 계세요. You can say your grandfather is something. For example, we'll just use 운동. 운동하고 계세요. My grandfather is doing exercise, so he is exercising. And now it's more polite toward your grandfather. But again, it's only with the person. You wouldn't say the dog is running around outside with 계세요. And even if you're talking with your grandfather, that doesn't make any sense because the dog doesn't need to have honorifics on it. Honorifics are only for people. So I need you to get your pinkies out again. Make another promise to me that, repeat after me, I will only use honorific verbs when I'm talking about a person. About a person. Okay, yeah. All right. Pinky promise. There we go. I feel much better. All right. So make sure you don't do that. Only for people. Let me give you an example of that. Let's use our father in this example. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a really old person like your grandfather. It can also just be your parents or someone else's parents. 아버지는, so my dad. 아버지는 지금 운전 is driving, as in driving a car. Not driving. I just remembered the dumbest Korean mistake that one of my friends made. He said, okay, so he knew. So 미치다 means to be crazy. And he knew that you can make adverbs by using K. So he's like 미치게, like crazy. 미치게 운전했어. He or she drove me crazy. I think he was talking about a girl. Like, oh, she always drives me crazy. So he's like 미치게 운전해요. Which is grammatically perfect. You can say 미치게 운전해요. But it doesn't mean drives you crazy. It means drives like crazy, drives like a maniac. Like terrible driver, which I think was also true. But yeah, so this is to drive a car. 운전하다 is to drive a car. So 지금 운전 I don't know, I suddenly just remembered that. 운전하고 계세요. 아버지는 지금, so my father is right now, so it's going to be something happening currently. 지금 운전하고 계세요. 아버지는 지금 운전하고 계세요. So my dad right now is currently driving. Therefore, maybe he's busy, or I don't know where he is, or he'll be home soon, or something, whatever you want to say, something going on right now. He's driving. 아버지는 지금 운전하고 계세요. So my dad right now is driving. Okay. Yeah, that was a pretty bad mistake. I've got so many like bad Korean mistake stories to share with you guys, but I just have to think of it. I've forgotten about that one actually. I had blocked that out of my memory. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is about the progressive tense and the present tense. So a lot of you might be wondering, well, if you're intermediate, you probably have had this thought in the back of your head sometime. Why do I have to use the progressive tense when I can use the present tense? Or if you're even more intermediate, you've learned a little more, you might think, what's the real difference between using the present tense and the progressive tense when they can both mean the same thing? Back to the beginner level now. So if you didn't know what I was talking about, the present tense can also be used to mean you are doing something right now. Okay? The present tense, which is not what we're learning today, is the regular conjugation of saying I like this. Like I like kimchi. 김치를 좋아해요. 좋아해요 is just a present tense it's a present tense conjugation. It's not saying I liked it or I will like it. Just I like kimchi. Like, you know, like caveman speech. I do this. I like this. Very simple. Present tense right now. The present tense, though, has a few uses. And one of those uses actually overlaps with our progressive tense. So let's talk about that. The present tense can be used to talk about something that's currently happening. So you can say, 저는 지금 well, not 운전. Let's do 운동. 저는 지금 운동해요. So I exercise now. I'm exercising now. You can use the present tense to talk about things that are currently happening, just like the progressive tense, right? You can also use the present tense to talk about things that will happen. So that would be the future tense, right? Your friend says, what are you doing tomorrow? 학교 가요. I go to school. Literally, I go school. But in that sense, I will go to school. And it sounds natural. 내일 학교 가요. 내일 학교 가요. Tomorrow, I'm going to school. As in tomorrow, I will go to school. And you can use the present tense just to talk about things that happen in general. Not necessarily right now, not necessarily in the future, but just, you know, like I like kimchi, you know, just in general. You can think of it as kind of meaning like, you know, in general, in translation. So yeah, I like kimchi. Not saying I will like kimchi or I currently like kimchi right now, but just in general, yeah, I like kimchi. 김치를 좋아해요. It doesn't necessarily mean these. It's just in general, you know, regular present tense. Like, yeah, now I like kimchi. I study Korean, right? I learn Korean. I want to eat Korean food. It's not future. It's not right now, so to speak. It's just in general. Yeah, I enjoy learning Korean in general. So present tense has all of these uses. But then, what about this? So currently happening. So then what's the difference then between using the present tense to say something that's currently happening and the progressive tense to say something that's currently happening? Well, let's talk about that. Because I don't want you to think that you have to use the progressive tense whenever you want to say you are doing something. If your friend says, what are you doing? You don't have to say 공부하고 있어요. I am studying. You can just say 공부해요. I'm studying. Same exact meaning in English, same exact overall meaning. So then what's the difference? Oh, 무크. 제 고양이가 지금 음식을 먹고 없지만 물을 마시고. Oh my. Muku, get out of here. Don't do that. Muku, you scared me. I first thought you were making like a regular practice sentence. I read the first part and I was like, oh, Muku's practicing. That's great. I love when people practice. And then I got to 없지만. Oof. Yeah, that's terrible. Muku, no. Yeah, don't do what Muku just did. 제 고양이가. First of all, that's wrong right there. You don't need to say 제 for your pet. You can just say 우리, or even better, 우리 집, as in my house. 우리 집 고양이가 지금 음식을 먹고 없지만 so, 물을 마시고 계세요. Yes. Yeah, you broke both the promises. What lesson are we learning about today, guys? Can't remember. Oh, that's terrible. The more I look at it, the worse it gets. Okay. Now I'm in a bad mood. The progressive tense. So we learned about the progressive tense. Progressive tense is something that's happening currently or continually. But that's it, right? You cannot use the progressive tense to say something that you will do unless it's going to be continual, as well as past tense, something you did do. It's only used for saying something that's happening currently. So then what would be the difference between saying 해요 and 하고 있어요? If you're talking about something currently happening, you can actually use either. That's the simple answer. You can use either. You're not going to be wrong to say you're doing something with the regular present tense. But using the progressive tense adds emphasis. So it all comes down to emphasis. And this doesn't have to be just that you want to emphasize something, but in a situation when you actually need to emphasize something. So why would you need to emphasize that you're currently doing something? Can you guys give me a reason why you want to emphasize that you're currently doing something? Why would you want to say to your friend, 운동하고 있어요 versus 운동해요? Why would you want to do that? Of course it means that it's currently happening right now, but why would you want to emphasize that something is currently happening right now versus just saying that something happens, maybe now, just in general? Can you think of a reason? I can think of a few. Sense of interrogation. It could be if you're asking a question, like, what are you doing? 뭐 하고 있어요? Like, what have you been doing? Like that sort of sense. I am doing, yes, small, but why would you want to emphasize that? This is my question. It's good if you get that it's used for emphasis, but I want you to also get why you might want to emphasize that. So not just this is what it means, but why would you want to use it for that? What natural sort of situations would you want to say that you're emphasizing that something's happening currently right now? Amanda Engstrom, that's awesome. As well as Larissa, you got it too. Danger, you guys all got it at the same time. Elena, as an excuse. Yeah, you guys all got it. You could use this as an excuse. Now, it doesn't have to be like you're trying to get out of doing something, but it's kind of used for explaining something. Like, hey, I'm exercising right now. 운동하고 있어요. So I'll call you back. I'll call you later. Or I have plans today. I am working. 일하고 있어요. You can say 일해요. I'm working. That's fine too. But if you want to say 일하고 있어요, it's like, hey, I'm doing it right now. Therefore, because it's right now, I'm busy. It's often used for making excuses or explanations for something. So if you want to give an excuse for something, use the progressive tense. It'll sound more like not just that you do something in general or it's happening right now, but you're like, no, it's going on for a while. Like, I'm busy right now. It's taking up my time. You could also just use it for emphasizing that something takes a long time. So you're saying, yeah, I'm doing it, but it takes a lot of time. It's not just something I do. It's not just something I'm doing right now, but it's something that I'm doing right now in that sort of sense. But yeah, basically it is emphasis, but you'll see it used a lot for excuses or explanations for things. Okay, so let's do a comparison then. I do want to do a little bit more practice between progressive tense and present tense because I feel like it's a really important distinction that I think often just kind of gets brushed off by beginners who are learning. They think, oh, so if I want to emphasize it, I use it. If I don't want to emphasize it, I don't use it. I got it. I don't got it. Like, I want to give you another example. So here we're going to have the sentence, I study Korean. I forgot. Gotta use the correct stroke order with you guys because a lot of you are still beginners. 한국어를. So we're going to have 공부해요. And we're also going to have 공부하고 있어요. So here we have two sentences. 한국어를 공부해요. And 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. Both of these can mean I am studying Korean. So your friend says, hey, what are you doing today? You can say 한국어를 공부해요. 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. Cool. Slight differences, but both can mean just I'm studying Korean. So then what does this first sentence mean? 한국어를 공부해요. This means that I study Korean. It could just be I study Korean in general, right? Yeah, I study Korean. What do you do with all your free time every day? Yeah, I study Korean in general. Yeah, I study Korean. Do you study Korean? Yes, I study Korean. That sort of thing, just in general. Yeah, I study Korean. It could also mean that I study often. It's something that's happening continually. What do you do every day? 한국어를 공부해요. 매일 한국어를 공부해요. I study Korean 매일, every day. I study Korean all the time. That's all I do with my life. What do you do with your entire life? 한국어를 공부해요. All I do is I study Korean continually. It could also mean I'm studying right now. What are you doing right now? 한국어를 공부해요. I study Korean. As in, like, I'm studying Korean now. Cool. Or it could mean I will study Korean. 내일 뭐 해요? What are you doing tomorrow? 내일 뭐 해요? 한국어를 공부해요. I study Korean. 내일 한국어를 공부해요. I'm studying Korean tomorrow. In that sense, I will study Korean tomorrow. What are you doing? Next week. Next week also, 다음 주도 한국어를 공부해요. I'm also studying Korean next week. So it can be something just happens in general, something that's happening right now, or even something that will happen, or something that happens, just often. Any of those meanings, because it's just the regular present tense. 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. This means I am studying Korean. I am studying Korean. Could not mean I study Korean in general. If your friend says, oh, what do you do with your whole life? 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. Now you're emphasizing I am studying Korean. That's it. It's taking up the entire thing. It could also mean I'm studying Korean right now. Hey, what are you doing today? 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. I'm studying Korean right now. Maybe I have time later. 지금 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. But I finish at 6 o'clock, so we can hang out then, right? Perfect. You just want to emphasize something's taking place over a period of time, or at least right now. And that's all it means. So this is much more limited. But in some situations, like I gave you when you're giving an excuse or an explanation for something, or you just want to emphasize something takes place over a long period of time, use this one. Otherwise, you don't need to. Okay. And you'll get the hang of when you feel like using each form. Like after practicing it, you'll kind of get the feeling of, oh, I see what it feels like. Like, oh, I see why I don't really need to use it in this case. But for the time being, hopefully that'll help so that you understand how it's used. All right. But we're not done with this form. There's one more thing you can do with the 고 있다 form. There's actually a few more things. That is another usage for this exact same form. And that is both of these markers are dying. I'll replace them, but later. This 고 있다 form can also be used to say that some sort of state, as in a state, I don't mean California or Arkansas. I mean a state of being. For example, we'll talk about exactly what it's used for. Certain verbs can be used with the 고 있다 form to show that someone or something is in a certain state for describing the state of something. We'll talk about what that means. I'm just giving you an example. That state is something that continues. So it's something that at one point happened and now still goes on. But only with a few types of verbs. So I don't want to confuse you with this. I'm just writing this up for people who are intermediate and want to know the literal definition. If you're a beginner, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this confusing explanation of a state of being, whatever that means. There are actually other forms we'll talk about in the future that do use this sort of form. This is used to show that after doing something, that the completed state that it's now in, after having done that, continues. For example, if you put on a coat, you wear a coat, what state are you in? The state you are in is having worn the coat, right? You have the coat on. So now you're in the state of having done some sort of action. So you are wearing a coat. Are wearing. Again, it translates as ing, but it's a little bit different. This ko ita form can also be used in a few situations with a few specific types of verbs to show the same English meaning, but a different literal meaning. So now we're not saying that something's happening continually, and we're not even saying that something's happening currently, as in, we're not currently wearing the coat right now. We're not putting it over our shoulders, right? We just mean we are wearing it, as in it's on and I'm still wearing it. That sort of state. So this form can be used with a few verbs that you might not think would be used in the progressive tense. For example, anytime you are wearing clothes, you can use the ko ita form to mean that you have them on. Now, depending on the context, you could also use this form to say, yeah, Charsu, he's currently trying to put on the Korean traditional clothing right now, the hanbok. He's currently trying to put on the hanbok. It takes a long time. 입고 있어요. Sure, you can say that. But it's also used just to say they already put it on. I am wearing a coat in the sense that I put it on and it's on me. Not that I'm still currently wearing it, and not that I am wearing it over a long period of time. Like I'm always wearing this coat. 매일 입고 있어요. You could also use this form to say, yeah, these days I'm wearing this coat every day. Sure. But it can also be used simply to talk about the state something already is in after doing an action. So it's used the same way. It's used with the same type of verbs. It's still used with action verbs. That hasn't changed. It's still conjugated the same way. Still the same way to make it negative. Still the same way to make it honorific. Everything else is the exact same, but now we have one more usage for it, and that is when you're wearing clothes. And a few other verbs we'll learn in a second. So when you're wearing anything, that doesn't have to be just the verb 입다, to wear. If you're not already familiar, there are like at least a dozen or more commonly used words for putting on pieces of clothing. There's a different word for putting on a hat, sunglasses, mask, earrings, a scarf, putting on a necklace, putting on your shirt, putting on your shoes, putting on a bracelet, putting on a seatbelt, a backpack, a belt, putting on anything on the sides, putting on gloves. They're all different in Korean. Contact lenses. I wish I were joking. There's a different word you can use when you're putting on like a hanbok if you want, or like a special, like a suit. Rings, watches. There's different ways to say wear with whatever it is that you're wearing. Now, you don't have to learn all of those. You don't have to learn every single one, but you will end up learning at least about 10, I would say, for all of the common ones. We're not going to be talking about those today. Let's keep it simple with just 입다. 입다 means to wear something over your entire body. So this would be like a shirt or pants. Anything that you wear that goes over your body and not on a specific part of your body only. So you can wear a shirt or a pants or coat, anything that's just big. So big items of clothing, you'll always say 입다. We're not going to talk about the other ones. Unless you guys would like to, we could do a future live stream where I just talk about all of the common ways of wearing things. I think if you're going to learn these are the most common that you're going to see, although there's a lot more. 입다 is for anything shirts, pants. 쓰다 is anything on your head. with exceptions. It's not earrings or contacts and stuff. But actually, yeah, it could be contacts. It's not earrings and other specific stuff around your head, but it's things like your hat, glasses, mask, 쓰다, and then 신다 is anything on your feet. So this would be your socks and your shoes is 신다, 쓰다, 입다. We could do a different live stream talking about those, but not for today. So let's just use an example with 입다. Let's do our friend Younghee. Now, Charsu and Younghee don't get along so well in my version of the story. So Younghee is Charsu's nemesis. She is much nicer and much better looking than Charsu, though. Much better person. Younghee는 반바지, 반바지 literally 반, half, 바지, pants, half pants. What do you think that means? What are half pants? Well, shorts. 영희는 반바지를 입고 있어요. So 입다 means to wear something like pants or a shirt. So Younghee is wearing shorts. You could think of this as currently right now Younghee is putting on shorts. Don't look. Give her privacy, right? Or Younghee every day she is putting on these same shorts. She's performing in a play, so she has to wear the same shorts for every performance. But it doesn't have to. It's most often used with these verbs just to say that something is currently in that state. In this case, to say that Younghee is currently in the state of having worn pants. 입고 있어요. So she is wearing pants in the same way we'd say it in English. That person is wearing pants. Not that they're putting them on right now, although you could say that in English too, right? But that they are already on their person. They're already wearing them. So Younghee is wearing right now. She has shorts on. 영희는 반바지를 입고 있어요. 영희는 반바지를 입고 있어요. Okay. However, you actually don't need to use this form to say that someone is currently wearing an article of clothing. You don't need to. You can also use the regular past tense to say that someone literally wore something. Or what we would say is put on. Younghee put on pants. As in, she's still wearing them, but she put them on. 영희는 반바지를 입었어요. She wore pants. She wore shorts. So you don't have to use this 고 있다 form with wearing clothes unless you want to emphasize that they are still on the person. You could. Either one is okay. If you don't want to, though, you can also just use the regular past tense. And you'll see both of these forms used. You'll see someone like 반바지를 입은 영희 씨는 blah, blah, blah. Younghee, who wore pants, who wore shorts, did this, or whatever. You'll see both. But just to let you know, it's the same thing. Just 입고 있어요 is emphasis that it's currently right now. She's wearing them. And 입었어요 is probably right now, but it's not assumed. It's not 100%. It could just be she wore them in the past. Like, yes, yesterday she wore those shorts or something like that. So if you want to emphasize someone's wearing something right now, use 고 있어요 with any of these wearing verbs. Okay. So Younghee is wearing pants. There's another common verb where you'll see this 고 있다 form used in this way, and that is the verb 가지다. 가지다 means to have something on your person. By that I mean to have something that you could possibly carry. You could say you have a brother and a sister using 있어요. Because literally 있어요 means they exist. They are, as in like, yeah, I have them, but they're not in my pocket, but I have them. They're at home, right? They're in cages, but I have them, but they're at home. 가지다 means to have something on your person. So it's something that you could carry. It doesn't have to be, you don't necessarily have to have it with you at the time you say it, but it has to be something that you could have on your person. So you could say, I have a cell phone, I have a marker, anything like that. And the way to say that you currently have it, as in I possess it, is with the 고 있다 form. So you'll see, and you might have already learned this, 가지고 있다. This is a way to say I have something. You could say, I wrote it really weird. You could say 가지고 있어요. I have something. And that means like it's on me. Like I have it here with me, most likely. It could be at home, but usually it's something you have. Your friend says, hey, do you have a cell phone? Do you have your cell phone on? So handphone is how they say cell phone. 핸드폰을 가지고 있어요? Literally, are you carrying your cell phone? As in, do you have it? Do you have on you a cell phone? This is the same usage as that previous one where I said it's describing a state. The state of having something and currently still having it with you. So 가지고 있다 gets used. The good news though is you don't really have to learn that this is an example of that same usage. You can just learn this form, 가지고 있다, as a way to say that you have something on your person and you're good. Just learn this as an expression, as a separate verb, and you'll be fine. Let me give you an example of this. 제가 가지고 있어. Okay, let's just do. I was like, what example sentence did I write here for beginners? And it's like literally the most basic thing I could possibly think of. Depending on the level of the live stream, will also change the difficulty of the sentences that we do. In this case, since it's a beginner live stream, I was like, okay, let's make the simplest sentences that will not be distracting with other grammar or other vocabulary. For example, it's like literally what I just wrote, just with 제가 added to the beginning. Okay. 제가 가지고 있어요. I have it. Someone says, hey, who has my marker? Who has my blue marker? 제가 가지고 있어요. I have it. 제가 가지고 있어요. Literally, I am carrying it, but you can think of it more like just I got it and still have it. I am in that state of having the pen, in that sort of sense. 제가 가지고 있어요. So 가지고 있다 is used to say that you have something that it could be carried with you. 제가 가지고 있어요. So I have it. Okay. But we're not done. We're not done. There's a little bit more we have to do. So there are many other verbs that can use this form, that don't have to, but can. So just like 있다, I said you could use it in the past tense, or you could use it with the 고 있다 form. There are some other verbs that you can also use by themselves or with this form. Really common ones are 알다, to know. You might see 알고 있어요, 알고 있다, or 알다. Another one would be things like if you're dating someone, you can see 사귀다, pronounced as 사귀다. So 사귀다. It's funny if you say it that way. Sounds like a scam. 사귀다 means to date someone. You also might see 만나다, literally to meet. But that's another way that Koreans talk about dating someone. They'll just say, we're meeting in that sort of sense. Yeah, I'm meeting my boyfriend. We're meeting well in that sort of sense. 잘 만나고 있어요. Literally, we are meeting well, but in the sense of saying we're dating well. We're having a good time. We're enjoying each other's company. 만나다, to meet. Or 살다, to live. If someone says, if someone says that, just run. They can't speak English. If someone says, where do you live? Well, you could reply by saying, 미국에서 살아요. I live in America. 미국에서 살아요. Present tense. Or you can say, 미국에서 살고 있어요. Now, this is not really an exception to this rule that we've learned. These are just regular verbs that you might see in this form. Because it's the same as the reason I told you why you might want to use the 고 있다 form over the regular present tense. Why would you want to say 살고 있어요 instead of 살아요? Just to emphasize right now, it's not really a big deal though, right? If you're saying, I live in Korea, well, when could that possibly mean past, in general? In general, yeah, I live in Korea. You're not going to use it. So it's fine to just say 살아요. You don't really need to emphasize right now with 살아요. It sounds fine to just to say 살아요. Also, although 살아요, the present tense can mean something like, I will do it. No one's going to think of that. I will live in Korea. 한국에서 살아요. Like, where will you be? 내년은 한국에서 살아요. People wouldn't use that. They would say, I'm moving to Korea or something else like that. So in this case, you can use both 살다 or 살고 있다 to say, I am living in Korea. But again, if you want to emphasize right now, like I have been living in Korea, not just I live in Korea as in right now, but I have been living, like I've been here a while already, 살고 있어요 is better to use. So you could say, 한국에서 살아요, when you just moved to Korea. 이제는 한국에서 살아요. From now, I am living in Korea. Sure, but if your friend says, oh, where are you living? And you've been in Korea for 10 years. You could say both, but you might prefer to say 살고 있어요, just to emphasize that it's been going on longer. But there's not really it's not a big deal. You can use either one. 만나다 or 사귀다, to meet. You could use as well. Either one. 사귀고 있어요. We are dating. 사귀어요. We date. 알다, I know. 알아요. I know it. 알고 있어요. I know it and I've known it before. Right? So you're emphasizing that you've known something for longer, not just that you know it in general or that you know it right now, but yeah, I've known that already. 알고 있어요. Yeah, I've known that. Instead of just 알아요. I know. Right? But either one can be used to say I know. Like, do you know that person? 그 사람을 아세요? You'd have to actually use honorifics for that. But let's just make it casual. Let's make it simple. 그 사람을 알아요? Do you know that person? 네, 알아요. 그 사람을 알고 있어요? Do you know that person? 네, 알고 있어요. Yes, I know that person, and I did know him before, and I continually know that person. I've known him for a while. That sort of sense. So these are just some examples of verbs you might see in both forms. There are more. These are just a few, though. All right. And oh yeah, and before we finish this section, so I said you can use 고 있다 to talk about the state that something is in. This is not, I repeat, this is not for talking about the state of someone that's doing some sort of motion. This is not used for the state of motion. Use exit. As in, that person is standing there and they are still standing. This is not to do with any motion. This is only to do with actions, things that you do once. Let me be more specific, because I don't think that's clear enough. Do not use this verb. Do not use this form 고 있다 with the verbs 서다, to stand up, 앉다, to sit down, or 눕다, to lie down. If you do, it will not mean he is standing. 서고 있어요 does not mean he is standing up. 앉고 있어요, he's sitting down right now. 눕고 있어요, he's lying down right now. This does not mean that. This means they are actually currently in the process of standing. So if you said, what's that person doing? And you said, oh, 그 사람은 앉고 있어요. That's like, they're like moving like this. They're sitting down in their chair. Like, in fact, they're doing it so slowly that it was still happening during the time where you asked that question and got the answer. And the person answering you felt confident they would still be doing it by the time that that person understood their answer. So if you said 눕고 있어요, that's like, oh, they're currently lying back on bed, like they're slowly pulling their blanket over and they're like moving very slowly, getting into bed. So if you use these verbs with this form, it doesn't mean they're already sitting or standing or lying down. No. Just use this form to talk about the state of something with wearing clothes, to keep it simple. Now, there were a couple exceptions, like I told you with those verbs I gave you. There were some exceptions with those verbs I gave you, but just keep in mind any sort of motion verb. Don't use it with this to mean the state. There is a different form that you have to use in order to talk about the state of something that's in a motion. And we'll learn about that in a future live stream. So yeah, don't use it with 서다, 앉다, or 눕다. Okay. That is the end of our beginner lesson. So if you guys are beginners, if this was your first time learning about 고 있다, give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a pat on the back. Now we've got a little bit more for intermediates. Let's just check the chat for a second. Who is the poor dead soul who disliked this? I don't mind. Like, you never want to see something that has, like when you're trying to buy something on the internet, you never want to see something that has 100% good reviews, right? If you saw, like you're shopping for a lamp, so you go on a website and there's 100 reviews and they're all 5 stars. Would you buy that item? Or would you buy the item next to it that has 100 reviews but only 4 stars? Which one would you buy? I think I'd buy the one with 4 stars. When it's perfect reviews, you just can't trust it, right? Like even, widely acclaimed, like famous series of books or whatever. Like you can look up Harry Potter, right? I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I understand it's really famous and popular. You can find 1-star reviews for it. Like, come on. Like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, come on. Like, I mean, you don't have to like it, but like 1 star, come on. You got to find a few, there's got to be some dislikes for you to trust it. So I don't mind if there are a few dislikes every once in a while. The problem would be a lot of dislikes, but yeah, a few it's just normal. It's normal how things work. It's not unexpected, and I welcome that sort of natural dislike amount. 1 is totally fine. Okay. Next, we have a form for people who are a little more intermediate. Now, this is not a high intermediate form. This would be, I would say, at the very beginning of the intermediate level. This would be one of the first intermediate forms that you should learn. And that is 중이다. The way to make this is you take an action verb stem and you attach 는. Now, if the action verb stem is a lir, oops. Hey, Muku. I'm sorry for all the streams I missed and all the streams I will still miss this year. Yeah, this year has been a bit strange, I'll say that. 2021 is going to be better. Yes, 2021 is going to be much better. I guarantee that. Thank you, Muku. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Okay. Make sure I turn off the dance party so we don't get unlimited dance party today. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say, if the action verb stem ends with a lir, which is this letter, well, you remove it. So the verb 살다 would become 사는. That's it. Just keep that in mind. And then after this, you'll attach 중. What is 중? Well, 중 actually comes from 한자. 중 is a common 한자. You might have seen it. It means the middle. Literally, it is just a picture of a line going through the middle of something. I think originally it was drawn like this, if I'm not mistaken, or unless that's the sun. Anyway, yeah, it just means the middle of something. And then ida, to be. So literally, to be the middle of action verb. To be the middle of. To be in the middle of action verb. To be in the middle of doing. Yeah. To be, ida, in the middle of 중, action verb. So whatever action verb you use, you're in the middle of doing it. So what is that used for? When do we say, I'm in the middle of doing something? It's just to emphasize. You're not emphasizing, like when you're using the regular ko ita form, you're not just emphasizing that it's happening now or it's happening continually. This is a different form that's used for emphasizing that something's happening only right now. Right now. Right now. Like that. So if you want to emphasize, like right now, this is what's going on, use 중이다. But there's some exceptions for that, but that's what it means. So it literally means in the middle of doing something. So you can say, I'm in the middle of exercising. I'm in the middle of studying. I'm in the middle of thinking about something. I'm in the middle of watching that movie. Anything that you're in the middle of. However, this is only for things that you are actually doing. So let me write this down. doing. Here we go. Just do it. This is only things that you're actually doing. Why is that important? This is not what you want to use to say, it's in the middle of raining right now. Doesn't that sound weird anyway in English? How's the weather? Well, it's in the middle of raining. You'll understand what they meant to say, right? It doesn't make any sense in Korean either. So it's only used with things that you are doing, an actual action that someone or something is doing, not for things like the weather, things that are just happening. So things that you can do, not just things that happen. All right? Things that you can do, not things that are just happening. So yeah, you wouldn't want to use it with things that with the weather or anything like that. All right, that's pretty much all there is to it though. So this is like a low intermediate form, but that's really all there is to it. Just keep in mind this, because I've seen some people say something like, 비가 오다, literally the rain comes is how you can say it is raining. I've heard people make mistakes like 비가 오고 있는 중이에요. The rain is in the middle of coming, literally. The rain is in the middle of raining right now. Of course you understand what they're saying, but meh. Okay, so let's do an example. I could actually think of a situation where that might logically make sense, but it's not used. Okay, so here's a regular example you could say. 한국어, so Korean language. Shall I write this a little nicer? All right, try to write nicer for you guys. 한국어를 공부하고 있는 중이에요. 한국어를 공부하고 있는 let me break this down. Okay. 한국어를 공부하고 있는 중이에요. So I am currently in the middle of studying 하고 있어요. Studying Korean. Now you could have just said I am studying Korean. 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. And that would emphasize that it's happening right now or happening in general over a period of time. So happening continually. But we're adding in 중이다. So now I'm in the middle of studying Korean right now. And it's going on for a while. That sort of sense. Like I started studying, drop my cap. This would be like saying, I started studying Korean already, and I am studying it. I'm doing it for a period of time. And right now I'm in the middle of that studying. 한국어를 공부하고 있는 중이에요. This would be like, hey, get out of my office. 지금 한국어를 공부하고 있는 중이에요. Right now I'm in the middle of studying Korean. You can use this 중이다 form together with the 고 있다 form if you want, just to add more emphasis to something that's happening over a period of time. Or you can simply say 한국어를 공부하는 중이에요. I'm in the middle of studying Korean, as in only right now, not also happening over a period of time. It's just small details like that. If you want to say I'm in the middle of doing something and you want that feeling of like, hey, I'm in the middle of something, I'm in the middle of it right now, then use the 고 있다 form together with 중이다. Otherwise, just use the regular action verb stem as it is. 하는 중이에요 is also fine, just to say right now. So let me find my pen cap. That is our lesson today. That is everything I wanted to teach you about this form, but we have another 10, 15 minutes. If you guys have any questions, you know what? No, the lesson's not over. I have one more thing I want you guys to do that I didn't have you guys do. I want you guys to all give me a sentence using this form. 고 있다. You can add 중이다 if you want, but I want you to give me an example sentence using 고 있다. You can make it as simple or as complicated as you want. Try to keep it toward your level though. Don't do something too crazy because I won't be able to give you feedback on it properly if it's really wrong. But try to make a sentence. Everyone who's watching, write a sentence using the 고 있다 form. And for the next 10 minutes, we'll look over some of the sentences. If you're only here just for the instructional part, well, that is finished. Thank you everyone for coming to the lesson. Let's do some sentences. I want to check to see how you guys are doing. How'd you understand this lesson? I think, yeah. I just deleted a sentence. Why did you do that? Zells. Hey, Zells. Thank you. Thank you for the $5 donation. Let me give you 5 dabs, and I'll check out what you wrote. 3, 4, 5. Thank you, Zells. Is it natural to use 이제 with the progressive tense? Like from now, I am. 이제 공부하고 있을 거예요. Yeah, you can say 이제 with the future version. You could also use it with the future right now, as in now I am doing something. 이제 공부하고 있어요. And now I'm studying. Yeah, that's fine too. You can use both. 지금 and 이제 both can be used to mean now, unless you need to be specific. If you want to know the difference, 이제 is a from now. So I think you do know that though, because you wrote from now. And 지금 is just a right now, but both of them still mean now. So you can still use both of them to say like now something is happening. 지금 or 이제, both are fine. But if you want to emphasize like from now I'm going to do something, you'd use 이제. If you want to say 지금, it would be right now. You can use either, like 이제 공부하고 있어요. And now I'm studying, like from now I'm studying in that sort of sense. It's fine. Or you can use future tense with 이제. I will be studying if you want. Or 지금, just to say it's already happening right now. So yeah, either is fine. I would say, for a really quick answer, 지금, to keep it simple. Because if you use 이제, like I said, you could have the meaning of also the future tense. In the right context though, you don't need to use the future tense for it, but without saying anything else, just to keep it really simple, 지금 would probably be better for that case. But either can be used. They just have, like I said, slightly different feelings to them. 빌리가 숲에서 한국어를 가르치고 있어요. Billy is teaching Korean in a forest. Okay. Junior Docs, 빌리를 보고 있어. I am watching Billy. Nice. Can you write a sentence in the past future? Yeah, you can, Mika. You can say 중이었어요. 중일 거예요. If you want to emphasize like I was in the middle of doing something like that. Not that common though. In English, we tend to do like grammar form plus grammar form plus grammar form plus grammar form, and it sounds okay to us. Koreans don't do that as much as we do. They like to keep things simpler. So while you can, 공부하고 있는 중이었어요. I was in the middle of currently studying Korean. It's not as natural as just saying 공부하고 있었어요. The end. I was studying. Or just 공부했어요. I studied, depending on what you want to say. You don't really need to do grammar form plus grammar form plus grammar like that. Like I said in Korean, it's just less common. But you can, yes. 피자를 먹고 있는 중이 Danger Walker. 중이에요. The spelling, it's not 이에요 for that. Scott. Thank you. Scott. Scott asks, what's the difference? Let me give you a couple dabs. What's the difference between 이제 and 앞으로? 이제 is like from now. 앞으로 literally means going forward, but it's used to say in the future. From now on. From now and onward in that sort of sense. Whereas 이제 is just like now moving forward. Now in that sort of sense. But still more focused on the right now. In that direction, but now. So 앞으로 is like future, in the future. See your other sentences. 지금 일하는 중이에요. Right now I'm working. 밥을 먹고 Eric, could you I can't read your name. Try again. 지금 이 라이브 보고 있어서 행복해요. I'm happy now because I'm watching this live. Okay, nice, boss. 먹고 있는 중이에요. I'm currently eating, Tani. 매일매일 저는 한국어를 공부하고 있어요. Yeah, I am studying Korean every single day. 매일매일, every single day. 그 사람은 일하는 중이니까 그 사람한테 아무 말을 하지 마세요. Okay, you don't really need to say 그 사람한테 twice. You can just say 그 사람은 일하고 있는 중이니까 아무 말 하지 마세요. It's fine. Or 말을, you might even want to use this. Let me give you a tip. You might want to use 말을 걸다. So 말하다 is literally to talk. 말 걸다. 걸다 is, why am I saying it like with an English accent? 말 걸다. 말을 걸다. 걸다 means to start talking to someone. Like to what's the word? Initiate a conversation, to start chatting with someone. So if you're walking down the street and you want to say something, say hi to someone, you want to start a conversation with someone, you wouldn't say 말을 하다, you'd use 말을 걸다 to start talking with someone, to bring up a conversation. So 말을 걸지 마세요 is what they would say. Like, don't start talking to them. Don't bring up anything. Not just 말을 하다. Don't speak to them, but don't talk to them. Like, don't try to talk with them in that sort of sense. But yeah, literally, this would be like to bring up to start a conversation with someone. 말을 걸다. The same way you would say like 전화를 걸다, to make a phone call, like to start a phone call. You could also say 전화하다, just to call in general. 전화를 걸다 is like to call up in that sort of sense. To call up. It's more of an idiomatic usage, but just to kind of make your sentence a little better, because I can tell you're at a level where you could accept that sort of advice. Okay, 누구도 나를 이해할 수 있습니까? Nobody even. If you use 누구도, it has to be used with a negative. 지금 방을 청소하고 있어요. I'm cleaning my room. Nice. 여행 가고 싶은데 걸릴까봐. You're using 걸릴까봐. You're using 까봐 that we learned last week. Nice. Perfect. Nice, Stefano. Nice, nice. 비디오를 보고 있는 중이에요. I'm watching a video right now. 수업을 보고 있으니까 제 머리가 터질 것 같아요. I feel like my head's gonna explode because I'm watching class. Okay? Did someone use Google Translate? I didn't see what sentence you're talking about. 샤워하고 있는 중이라 전화를 못 받아요. I can't get the phone because I'm currently taking a shower. I'm not sure how you would say that sentence. Maybe you could yell it. I'm in the middle of taking a shower. Yeah, sure you could. This is a practice section. You're not supposed to, I didn't know. Did someone use Google Translate? I didn't even see. 점심 먹고 있지만 나중에 만나자. I am eating lunch, but let's meet later. You don't need to use the 지만 with that case, because like that would be like saying, I'm eating lunch right now, but let's meet later. Instead, you'd probably want to use 만나고, 먹고 있는데. I'm eating right now, so let's meet later. That sort of sense. Unless you're worried that they're going to be like really disappointed. So you're like, I'm eating lunch now, but don't worry, let's meet later. Then it's okay to say what you have. I'm just giving a suggestion. What you have, though, is not grammatically wrong. 러시아에서 살고 있었어요. I was living in Russia. Okay. I missed the person using Google Translate. I can't even find it. I can't even find the sentence. I wanted to read it and laugh at it. Token GLX. 안녕하세요. As a beginner learning level, thank you for videos like this. I just joined, but will definitely be rewatching. Yeah, thanks. There will also be an abridged version of this lesson. And I'm still checking. If you guys would like to make practice sentences, please do that now. I am reading all of your comments. I might not reply to all of them or fix all of them, but I'm reading all of them. 저는 지금 숙제를 하고 있는 중이에요. I'm currently doing my homework right now. That's okay. I have to go. Thank you, Billy, for the great layout. Thanks for coming, Tanny. Or Tani. I guess it would be Tani. You just read it, Billy? Where? I don't know. Where was it? Just after the donation? Really? Let me see. Oh, Google Translate. I see. That's why. Okay. So that was the sentence that I couldn't understand. That I knew what they were trying to say. Can anyone understand me? But completely wrong. Okay. Yeah, I was curious what sentence, because I'm like, I should have read the full comment. I just read what he wrote in Korean, and I was like, oh, it doesn't seem right. I wonder how he got that sentence. That's all I was thinking. He just wanted to laugh. Yeah, I just wanted to laugh. Well, I already read it, so now I can't laugh at it. I can't go back and read it again and laugh at it. 고 있어요. 이치 droid. There will be a future lesson about that other form. Well, because it will be a full live stream about it. But yes, it is. 이치 droid. As I said in this lesson, the 고 있어요 is like you're currently in the process of doing something. So like if you're lying down, you're like slowly moving to lie down. No one would ever say that for any motion verb, not just standing, sitting, and lying down. But any sort of motion wouldn't make any sense if you're saying like that. It would be you're currently in the process of doing it. Like you're currently doing that. So if you say like 가고 있어요, I'm going, it doesn't mean you're there already. You're not in the state of having arrived there. You're just currently walking there or running there or driving or whatever. 나는 피아노를 치고 있어요. I'm playing the piano. Nice, Christina. Presto potato. Dude, I finally caught you live. See my comment about the video idea? Yeah, Presto, did you check out? I did do a video kind of about that. I read your comment. I didn't reply to it, but I did read it. I did do a video about the sounds that Koreans make. So did you watch that video first? Because I did do a video where I didn't talk about the sound specifically, but I do mention that kind of sound they use for in a few different cases. I think I mentioned that sound in the video. I should have if I didn't. Anyway. Other people want the... Oh, yeah, Arlie, you were the person who suggested that form, and it is on the list. We will get to it. It might even be the next lesson that we do. Just so you guys know, I don't actually use Google Translate for Korean. I use Google Translate for translating English to our language. Papago is the best. Of the translators available, Papago is the best, but that's not really saying anything. That's not really saying too much because they're all terrible. But if you have to pick which one is the least terrible, then yeah, Papago. It's the least terrible of them. But I've seen some of my students will use Papago Translate and they'll make sentences and they just sound awful in Korean. So you can't trust it. It's kind of useful as a quick guide, like, hey, this is kind of what it means, but don't use it for translating. It's more like, what does this sentence in Korean mean? I can kind of understand it, but I'm not really positive if I understand it. Put it in Papago, get the translation, read it for yourself, be like, oh, I think now I get it, and then go back and translate it manually. So it's it's a good helping tool, but not a translator. And it gives more incorrect sentences than correct sentences. But yeah, Google is much worse than it though, but that's only right now. I have a feeling that give Google another few years and Google will get up to where Papago is right now, or maybe even a little better. But you're not going to have translators that are perfect ever. Just the way that Korean works, it's a contextual language. You don't know what the context is, so you can't translate it without knowing the context. So it could never give you a perfect translation because it doesn't know what the context is. Doesn't know who you're talking with. Doesn't know where you are, what your position is. Doesn't have any of that information. So if you were to tell a person to translate that, they're not going to be able to translate unless they know the context for that. And if you're just giving one sentence to it, there's no way it has any context. Like even if it was a genius translator, you give it one sentence, the person's not going to know the context for that sentence. So they're going to do their best job, but it's not really going to match every situation. Velta, 지금 노래하고 있어요. I'm singing right now. Nice. Some Korean sounds like hissing. Yeah, you can do that when you're thinking about something. When you want to express to the person that you're thinking really hard and you're not sure. Like, I don't know. Like we'd go, like that when we're thinking, but really we're trying to say no, but we're still thinking. Then Koreans will do, like, I'm not sure. I believe they also do this in Japan. They might do it in China too. I just know at least Korea and Japan both have this. I actually learned that before I even studied Korean. When I was there was a popular video, or maybe it was around the same time. There was a popular video, how to speak fluent Japanese without saying a word. You guys probably saw the video. It was really famous, like back in early YouTube days. How to speak fluent Japanese without saying a word. And it was just this clearly non-Japanese guy. And I think he made a whole video of just making sounds for like every single reaction. It was pretty funny. You guys probably saw that video before. Okay. What is the difference between 살고 있어요 and 살아 있어요? Athena, we will talk about that second form in a future live stream. But a real quick answer is I am living in Korea, or I am living versus I am alive, as in I am not dead. 살아 있어요, I am alive. 끼다, small, take out, put in, and wear. 끼다, they use 끼다 for context lenses. I believe lenses or 끼다. Let me just double check before I give you something. 끼다. Right? Yeah. So you would say lens is contact lens. So you could say 렌즈를 끼다 is to wear contact lenses. And to take out contact lens, you just use the regular verb to take out, which is 빼다. 빼다, to take out. 끼다. 끼고 있어요. I'm wearing lenses. 뺐어요. I took them out. I always check everything, usually Naver, before I teach, not just this live, but like whenever I'm writing lessons, I always want to make sure I give you guys accurate information. So I'll write something and I'll be like, double check. Sometimes I'll write something, I'll be like, I think that's right. And I'll look it up. I'm like, no, that is not right. I'm glad I checked. How do I grasp the sentence order and understanding sentences better? I can read Hangul and understand basic sentences and sometimes understand the context, but it still feels different. This is the common question I get multiple times every day. Practice. 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 You have to do more practice. More exposure to the language, of course, watching more TV shows in Korean, but it's really you using the language, practicing the language to get more comfortable with it. There's nothing that's going to happen magically. There are no magic tips. They all of the shortcuts you'll hear about for learning Korean, it all boils down to the same thing, practicing. There are different tips for practicing, like how to find pen pals, tips for good ways of practicing Korean when you're by yourself. There are all these tips you can find, but they all boil down to practicing, as in you using the language yourself. That kind of practicing. That's it. So whatever way you can find to do that, and there are lots of videos with tips like, you can do this, use this app for practicing. But it has to be you yourself making the sentences from your own brain. Not nothing else. That's what it all comes down to. I will learn, Ratty asks, in which way except Hanja does Chinese make my Korean learning easier? Hanja. Hanja. That's it, really. Because the Hanja that Korean uses is, for the most part, old Hanja. It's not modern Chinese. It was from I believe it's from the 800 AD to 1200 AD. Around that period was when the Chinese characters were brought into Korea. So it's around that period, which means it would have been Northern Chinese dialects in China over 1,000 years ago that those words and those pronunciations would have been carried over into Korean. I think modern day, it would be closer to Cantonese than Mandarin. But a lot of the words have different meanings nowadays even. So yeah, that's it, is Hanja. If you know Hanja, the Hanja will help you a lot, especially with advanced words. Not as much with beginner words, but a lot with advanced words. So you'll be able to translate a lot of vocabulary you have just by knowing the Hanja in Korean. Oh, Muku again, Muku. Thank you, Muku. 우리 엄마 옆집에서 자고 계세요. I have to change 자다 to 주무시다. 자고 계세요. 자고 계세요 is okay. You can use both if you want. The thing is, you do not have to use honorific verbs for people. You should, to be polite though. But it's not wrong if you say, like, my dad is sleeping. 자고 있어요. It's not wrong. It just doesn't show that extra sort of respect. And in some cases, it could be considered wrong, like, your boss, those types of things, your teacher, really people you really want to show extra respect toward. Then it could be considered more proper to use those. But you could say, 자고 있어요. 주무시고 계세요 is okay too. 주무세요 is sleeping. That's okay too. 주무시고 계세요. 자고 계세요. One of those is good. As long as you use one of them, it's fine. Both, if you want. I've heard people use both to kind of be comically extra polite. Like I've heard someone I heard someone make fun of me for liking something. They were saying, 아주 좋아하시고 계십니다. Look how much he loves to eat it. Kind of like saying it like they're a broadcaster, like being extra polite and extra detached from me. So yeah, you can use both, definitely. It's just not necessary to use. You can say 좋아하고 계세요. 하고 계세요 is fine. Okay. I should also brush up on my Chinese. AUNE Pasha wrote, I'm a Muslim. Is that the new the Slim Shady rap? Did I'm a Okay, I don't know how it's spammed. All right. This is very interesting. That's cool. Is 고민 중이야 without 는? Because 고민 in this situation is noun. 고민 중, yeah, 중 can also be used with several 한자 words, nouns that are 한자. Not used typically with pure Korean verbs. So this you'd have to know the verb is 한자 first to use it. And it's only with a few specific ones, actually. So you would use it for like 고민, 생각. It's things that have to do with thoughts. Most of the time, I'll just say 고민 and 생각 are the most common you'll see it. You don't really have to learn. It could be 공부. It's a few others. But it's just going to be 한자 words and only in some more formal situations, not as so much of a casual usage. Hey, Evolving. Can you further explain restrictions on 고, 있다, and action verbs? What do you mean? Further explain restrictions. Can you tell me give me an example? Do 5 more dabs while you're writing that. I'm wondering what part did I mention that you're wondering more about? What's in that drink? This is actually better than last time. This is mango caffeine drink. And I actually finished it almost. There's like a tiny, there's like 1 sip left. So this time I actually finished it almost. This is good. It's not as sour. Last time it was really sour. I had a strawberry one. You mentioned not using it with verbs for getting up and lying down. Yeah, it's any sort of motion verb. Any verb that involves moving somewhere or moving your body, don't use it. So these are the ones that you need to focus on. It could be any sort of verb that has to do with 가다 or 오다 as well. If you say 가고 있어요, it doesn't mean you're already there. You're just currently going. You're going right now. Or it could be continually going, currently or continuing. You wouldn't use it for anything like, any sort of other bodily motion doesn't mean that you're in that state. Like you're raising your hands. It doesn't mean that your hands are up. It means that you're raising your hands. If you're waving your hands like this, it means you're actually waving, nodding your head. Any sort of movement, it means you're actually doing it physically right now. So don't use it for any sort of movement or motion. But it's okay for a few specific things that you are putting on your body work for this, just like they do in English, like I'm wearing a coat. But in English, like I said, not for motion. So although we do say he is sitting down to mean he's already seated, in Korean, that's a separate form for motions that are current or actions that are motions that are currently already completed. And you're in that state. Those ones will use a different form, which we'll learn about in a future live stream. That would be the or 어 있다 form. So like 누워 있다, 앉아 있다, 서 있다, as well as states of objects that are moving. So you could say a door is open, 열려 있다. But you wouldn't say 열고 있어요. That's like I am opening the door right now. Or 열리고 있어요. The door is currently opening, slowly moving open. That's different. Scott B. Yeah, sure. That's actually, Scott, this is a benefit of, oh, here, I was like trying to find your name and it was right here at the bottom. Like, where's his name? 체험 and 경험. These ones are actually easy. If you just look at the 한자 for the word, if you look at the Korean definition, they're very different. 체 is personal. 험, experience, personal experience. 체험. So if you wanted to say, I tried something, like a museum had a exhibit where you could try building something, like you can build your own human heart. They might call that like 심장 만들기 체험 or something like that. Basically an experience of doing something. 체험. 경험 is just an experience of anything, like an emotional experience. It was an amazing experience watching the movie or meeting with a friend or anything. Anything is an experience in general, not a personal experience, not an experience you have to, like an action experience. So that sort of meaning, they both mean experience, but the 체험 is more like something that you actually do, like your own personal experience. 실력 is an ability. 능력 is more like a power, like a mental ability. Just double check on that. Yeah, like you would say like a capacity. That's the word I wanted. So you would say like if you have a superpower, they use that as 초능력. 초 meaning super. 능 력. 력 at the end means power. Anyway, so they both mean power. 초능력. So this would be a superpower. This is like a capacity, an ability, like what can you do in that sort of sense. Whereas 실력 is just your skill for something. Doesn't have to be a physical skill, but just a skill of knowledge skill or anything like that. And that would be also with different hanja. Let me check the hanja. I think it's the one for real. Yes, it is. Yeah, this would be like a talent skill. So, yeah. They're both used for skill, but you wouldn't say... actually, you could use 능력 for Korean ability and 실력 for your Korean ability. So it's like an ability versus a capacity for doing something. But they're very similar. You would have to look at, like I said, you'd have to check the Korean definition for an exact difference between them, though, because there would be situations where you wouldn't use one or the other. But in English, they're both the same. So it doesn't really help. A lot of those words, though, that's why I recommend not even looking at the English definition when you're trying to find what's the difference between this. Just look at the Korean definition. Because the Korean definition for these is quite different. 실 means real, like 사실, reality. 력, power. So literally real power, the real ability. And if you look at the Korean definition, it says 실제로 갖추고 있는 힘이나 능력. So the strength, as in a physical strength or ability, 능력. Notice the definition 능력 is within 실력, that you have to do something in reality. So your actual physical strength or ability to do something is your 실력. 능력, however, it shows 이를 감당해 낼 수 있는 힘. So it's only a 힘. 능력 would only be your power for doing something, like the strength to do something. So it would be used for different sorts of things, like whether you're talking about the mental capacity or just your overall ability to do something, like that. Billy always brings it. Yeah, I always have a Naver open. It's really useful. Like I said, I stopped looking at English translations a long time ago, and it really helps because the English translation for so many words will be the exact same, but then when you look at the Korean definition, they'll be completely different. Like it looks similar, like you'll see, oh, I see why it's similar, but they're used in different situations. Like, for example, like 실력 could be your power, your physical strength, or an ability for something, whereas 능력 is just only the ability to do something, like, you know, or sorry, the other way, only the physical strength for doing something. Okay. I'm going to shower after this. Nice. If you are literally going somewhere, it's fine to use 가고 있다. Yes, if you're literally going something, 지금 가고 있어요. Yeah, hey, where are you? 아, 지금 가고 있어요. Yeah, I'm going right now. I'll be there soon. 5분 뒤에 도착할게. I'm going to arrive in like after 5 minutes. 지금 가고 있어요. I'm going right now. Yeah, perfect. But it doesn't mean you're already there, is what I'm saying. Oh, thumbnail poses. I'll find something from the video. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. Again, thank you for today's supporters. Hyunwoo, Juju, Evolving Brain, A Plumber Man, Muku, Zelz, I can't read your name, and Scott. And I will see you guys again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.